Have you or a loved one ever been kept up at night by an embarrassing memory from 5th grade? Have you ever experienced another person's actions that caused facial distortion and an involuntary sharp inhalation? Have you ever posted something and lost subscriber? Then you may have experienced cringe. Cringe, verb, is to experience an inward shiver of embarrassment or disgust. It's something we've all done and a feeling we've all had. A lot of people will try to avoid this feeling as much as possible, as they, for good reason, don't enjoy the discomfort that comes with cringing and cringy behavior. However, some of us dive headfirst into the depths of awkwardness to find the most uncomfortable examples of other people breaking the social contract. Is it a form of sadism as we find pleasure in mocking others for their obliviousness? Or is it a form of masochism as we revel in that joyous feeling of having our whole beings clench up at the reminder of what we could have been or perhaps were at some point? Why do we cringe? What's the psychological cause of this reaction? I don't know. Let's find out together what cringe teaches us. To help us learn our lesson, how about we use my good friend Tomoko, the main character of Watamote, or no matter how you look at it, it's you guys' fault I'm not popular. Tomoko is the pinnacle of cringe-based characterization. Every action she takes is meant to have you curling up in secondhand embarrassment and pity. Depending on who you are, you'll likely leave any given episode of the show with one of two feelings: depression that people actually live like this, or a pained glee over all the groans and oh gods you let out during its runtime. At its peaks, Watamote can hurt as much as early seasons of The Office, and that is some very high praise. Cringe typically comes in two forms: embarrassment and vicarious embarrassment. The second one is what we'll be mostly focusing on for the rest of the video, so let's break it down a bit better. Vicarious embarrassment is the more psychologically appropriate term for that cringe feeling. Yeah, I don't know why it's more appropriate either. More commonly referred to in daily life as second-hand embarrassment, it's an empathetic response to witnessing an embarrassing event rather than experiencing it yourself. Alternatively, it can also be seen as self-projection, in which one projects what they perceive to be the appropriate emotional response to something another person experiences onto themselves. Same end goal, just different focal points. More unique to vicarious embarrassment is the fact that the reaction is unique to the individual and how they would experience embarrassment in that situation. If you also wear fedoras, trench coats, and carry around katanas, then you're not going to cringe at this image, because you wouldn't be embarrassed by looking like this, and you definitely should. On the complete opposite end, if you have social anxiety and see someone make a fool of themselves in front of a whole crowd, you may wind up feeling sweaty and nauseous because you're experiencing the same form of reaction you would if you were the one at the center of attention. Alright, we know what cringe is, where it comes from, but what causes it? Let's head back to Watamote for an example. Well, the reason the show is potent for me is, aside from also looking like I've never heard of sleep, I was a fucking loser in high school. I had my friends, thankfully, and there were places outside school where I was a bit more popular, but goddamn, thinking back to my freshman year hurts. Thankfully, I'm a big fan of making fun of myself, so seeing Tomoko drag back memories of what I used to be like is now a fun time. Wishing you could do something to make yourself cute, praying that someone would show some romantic interest, trying to act cool and aloof, spending too much time alone, and over-attaching to one friend who is willing to be nice to you. Shit was rough. Thank God I made a better college debut, or else I'd probably be a lost cause. Wait, I make anime videos on YouTube. But even the things I can't empathize with, I know people who could, and might have, thought or done enough of these things that I can project the scenarios onto them, and then onto myself, to still see how embarrassing it would be. Embarrassment is caused by someone breaking the social contract. The social contract is the set of rules and expectations that a social group devises over time through the agreed-upon set of acceptable behaviors. This changes from group to group, city to city, country to country, and probably planet to planet. Imagine, for example, you have two friend groups. One is very touchy-feely and loves to hug and cuddle one another, while the other one always keeps
5 feet apart cause they're not gay.
If you bring a friend from group 1 into group 2 and they start hugging everybody, you, along with your friends, are going to start to feel discomfort because they are breaking the unspoken rules of the social group. What I believe separates cringe from secondhand embarrassment is that the embarrassing individual does not know that their actions are embarrassing. They do not care for or respect any contract outside of their own. This is how you get Chunibyo syndrome. When you're still figuring out yourself at that age, your reality is only how you want it to be, and you don't understand if your actions are breaking the social contract, because there is only your own. Thus, we're watching Tomoko in an age where she is learning to accept this social contract, but due to her loner lifestyle, she is developing a fundamentally wrong idea of what is acceptable. Through her awkward behavior and hatred, her fundamental understanding is enough to understand that her actions are embarrassing, but doesn't know why or how to remedy it, inevitably moving to the idea that it cannot be her fault, but everyone else's. But why are we okay with that? Why are we happy watching someone behave this way and enjoy the emotional distress that it causes? Well, I'm going to argue that this is twofold. Firstly, from a psychological perspective, cringing is actually a pro-social behavior. According to Rowland Miller, author of Embarrassment, Poise, and Peril in Everyday Life, embarrassment is like a red alert for public misbehavior, one that can result in the disapproval of others, while also demonstrating that the person genuinely regrets their transgression of whatever social norm it may be. Being embarrassed reminds us that our actions are inappropriate and a detriment to our social lives. Because no matter how much of a shut-in you think you are, yes, social interaction is a vital part of our mental well-being. And if you risk your place in society, you risk your ability to interact with others and get the social fill that we need to be healthy. When you cringe, you're simply getting a third-person reminder of that concept. You shouldn't act that way because it will put you at risk. Empathetically, you also feel for the person who is losing the clout due to their actions. That is, if you're a good person who cares about other people. The second reason is actually a bit of a different take that is specific to writing cringe comedies. Shows like Watamote, The Office, and Curb Your Enthusiasm all have something in common with their main characters, aside from being cringy, that is sort of the opposite of what we discussed in the Konosuba and the Unapologetic Comedy video. Yes, I'm aware I'm using Curb Your Enthusiasm again, despite this argument being the opposite of the last one. Just trust me, it works on both fronts. In that video, we discussed how, in order to keep the viewer on the main character's sides, the characters must be seen in at least a somewhat positive light so we don't come to despise them for their rude behavior. In cringe comedy, the asshole with a heart of gold is still the core concept, but the reasoning is turned upside down. Instead, we are there for the heart of gold and a desire to see the character succeed in some way. You cheer for Michael Scott and Tomoko because you can tell that a significant part of them is just desiring the friendship they don't have. However, in order to prevent the viewer from being made to feel miserably guilty over laughing at their misfortunes and missteps, we also need the part of the show that portrays their thoughts and actions as rude and antisocial. You want Tomoko to find that happiness, but not while she walks around calling every girl a slut and every man a pig just because they don't talk to her when it's really due to her own anxieties keeping her from speaking with them. The core of these cringe comedies is an underdog who should have learned the social contract, but have developed a complete misunderstanding of its rules and purpose. We enjoy their struggles and laugh because oftentimes we can empathize with them because everyone has, at one point or another, done something cringy and embarrassing. You wish that you could help, but don't feel guilty because in some way or another the character is written to deserve the pain that's coming to them. So is this sadism? No. Actually, vicarious embarrassment is seen as the opposite of Schadenfreude, that desire to see someone in pain or humiliated. Is it masochistic? I guess it could be to some degree, but the core of it is to remind ourselves how not to act in our daily lives. That proper pro-social behavior is exactly what cringe teaches us. I'm just thinking about all the really fucking cringy things I did in high school, and I am very uncomfortable now. I need to stop this. Ooh. Oh, if I could go back in time and kill freshman me, Hi, everybody.